Hi everyone, my name is Bruno Ferreira. Today I'm introducing a new video format for this YouTube channel. I am starting a series of in-depth videos on guitar repertoire in which I present my vision, my perspective on a specific piece of music. It will be organized in chapters and I will present very detailed content on each of these pieces. Let me know on the comments below what music or topics you would like to see presented here, in case this format is of interest for you. Now, the presentation is done, let's get into the video. I decided to begin this series with Etude number 11, opus 100 by Giuliani, not for a particular reason. There will be more video lessons coming out from now on, but because Giuliani is one of the composers that represents the kind of music guitar was made for. If you haven't watched the performance video yet, click here to do so. The performance of this particular study for guitar seems to be at first sight quite challenging in terms of execution of right hand, but also coordination with left hand, plus the execution of the orchestral speech between voices. However, in my opinion, this is not the biggest challenge. So let me introduce you what I think is relevant for today. As I mentioned before, this piece is a clear representation of orchestral music composed for guitar. In my opinion, we are looking at three different voices, despite the fact that the facsimile is written in two parts. The upper voice, in black, represents a high-range instrument of an orchestra, for example, the violins, flutes and piccolo. The lower part, pointing down on the facsimile and divided in two different voices on the score below, represents the speech between the violas, cellos, bassoons, horns, and the double basses, tubas and trombones. The orchestra could sound like this. The melody composed by the E's of the first string provides the rush and intensity of the orchestra, but is not as relevant as the melody underneath. Later on, the tonality and the character change and the dialogue between the high-pitched instruments and the lower range begins. So, the repetition of the third string becomes now the irrelevant voice. And why is this important? Not only to understand the texture of the piece, where music goes, but also to clarify our technical choices. For example, from the very beginning, the third string must sound clearly as hard as a bass, played with the thumb. But that is not the case from the third system, in which the third string is better played with the eye finger and obviously not so prominently. Another important question is whether we start playing on the first position or not, because that will result in playing D sharp and C on the same string, which sound like they belong to the same part. If we play on the first position, we will be using different strings for the same instrument or the same voice, which results in different colors or timbres, if you will. That is okay, but maybe it would be a more cohesive solution to opt for a fingering that allows you to play one string, one instrument. D sharp belongs to the upper voice, and if you notice on the score, it's not grouped with the melody of C, B, A. So they have to be in different strings. So here's the solution. We play the upper voice on the first string using the D sharp on the second string. We leave the bass on the open string and then third string to play the middle voice, the C, B, A, instead of C, B, A. And the result will be instead of. The second example is on bar 3. We have the G sharp on the bass and then D sharp is too close to D. So you would play this. It's also difficult, so we can change to G sharp with the second finger, D sharp on the second string and then D on the third string. And this is a different color for each voice. Third string. It's not that difficult. 2, 4, 2, 1. It requires more left hand movement, but if you learn it well, it will be clearer to distinguish the different voices. It is not always possible or handy, so sometimes you have to sacrifice the voicing to be able to play more fluently. It's a matter of experimenting and choosing according to what you can do. To accomplish a balance in volume between the instrument's dialogue and the rest of the orchestra, I suggest to play the less relevant part with one repeating finger, instead of alternating fingers. Can be I or M, for instance, and let the thumb do the earlier mentioned conversation between voices. It will result in a very active thumb, but that is what this study is meant for. I made a longer version of this video with exercises to practice the jumping thumb and all the techniques employed in this piece for those who would like to deepen this matter. This is exclusive content for patrons of UniGuitar.com, so if you are interested, please consider becoming a patron and support the channel. Follow the link on the description below to get access and download the sheet music with fingerings of all the lessons of this series. Back to the video. Next on the list, damping the open strings. Let's play one time without damping the A and the E. Not too bad, right? And now damping those notes. Much better, more orchestra-like. And that is, in my opinion, what Giuliani meant with the lower voice. Notice that the A is only one beat instead of a long note, because it's part of the melody, it's not accompaniment. If you decide to play the open string shorter, you can damp the notes by using the outside of your thumb right before playing the string underneath. For instance, it would be instead of once again. However, this doesn't work when you need to jump more than one string. In this case, you have to land your thumb on the note you want to stop and play the next note with one of the other fingers. For instance, on the first bar, you have so I play the C with thumb, means that this note kept ringing. If I want to damp the A note, then I would have to play this way. Or there is an alternation between thumb, I, and then again thumb. So you play the open string, damp it while you play C, and then go on with thumb. Of course, this requires some practice and experiment, so we need to find out what works the best for you. This technique is not necessary when you have a pressed string, because once you lift it, the note stops ringing. It's good to analyze what spots we need to apply this technique and experiment different possibilities of fingerings, which brings us to the next topic. Fingerings are often very easy and intuitive, especially when the composer writes his own on the score, which is not the case. So we must follow the needs of the musical ideas. This etude is fast, crisp and fluent. There isn't one single rest throughout the whole piece. Well, there are, but they don't mean a musical rest. This means that we must perform it seamlessly and fluently. Therefore, it is important to set up a good fingering to avoid breakage of chords and arpeggios. So this is what bar number 11 should sound like. And this is a fingering that everyone probably would use at first sight. I will do the last bit again both ways. It doesn't sound the same, right? My solution to this is to achieve a seamless transition or exchange of fingers by playing the same note with different fingers. The A is with the second finger until we play the C on the bass. Then we change for the first finger. So And that leaves us the second finger free to play the B without a hiccup from the A note. Without exchange of fingers, sounds like this. With transition of fingers, sound like this. And because it's fast, it sounds very smooth, this exchange of the first and the second finger. It is complicated, but with some good practice you can achieve a very nice result and avoid this hiccup produced. Another good example comes after on bar number 14. Without exchange of fingers. With exchange of fingers. One more time. So you can apply this technique anytime or any situation you need to jump from two different strings with the same finger. I really appreciate you stayed until the end of this video. Hopefully you got some insight on Giuliani and inspiration to practice this great study for classical guitar. Please don't forget to subscribe and like, and share it with your friends that would appreciate this kind of content. See you on the next video.